coronavirus. That was in that Italian vaccine. So, that Italy was hit hard, that Switzerland was hit hard. These were where they were working with, against all international and federal law, where they were working with the cell line. The manufacturing plant, the manufacturing plant was Vero monkey kidney cells. And then you mixed it with dog cells. As you injected the dog cells, and you get recombinants of the coronaviruses. It can happen in a matter of the time in a fermenter. So you grow these in like big craft beer or wine, and you grow up these cells. They're continuously growing. They're cancer. And that's what we do with the cell lines. We study them for cancer. So they're continuously growing, and they don't clean them up because there's no liability, and they don't have to. So see 1986theact.com, Andy Wakefield's new movie about the 1986 Vaccine Injury Act, which removed all liability from the manufacturers. And the PrEP Act is even worse because it removes all liability for the masks, for anything else, from the airline industry when they crash the plane, and everything else. So here's the pathogens in eggs when we're talking about the flu vaccine. So most of our flu vaccines, they're threatening to use the dog kidney cell one in America, and so because they'll run out, and they have to make sure we all get one. So they'll run out of the ones with the made in chicken eggs. But here's just a small list, and you're not intended to see it. Again, from my friend Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. These are all the viruses, pathogens in eggs. So when you get pathogen-free eggs, and it's infectious bronchitis, infectious bursal disease, lymphoid leukosis, that avian leukosis virus, Marek's disease, that's a fun one, mycoplasma, Newcastle disease, reticuloendothelial virus. Oh, do we have a little problem with our blood in COVID-19? Again, that's not a coronavirus. These other things are causing it. So these avian coronavirus, IBV, it infects birds, infects AIDS, highly infectious bronchitis. So, literally they have to take a whole herd of chickens away if they detect that. But notice on this list, there's nothing to say, is there the avian coronavirus in the vaccines? They simply don't test it. Why? Because if they don't test it and they don't know it to be true, then they can't have liability. So they simply don't do the test. Absence of evidence is evidence of absence. That it's like, okay, we won't do it because the only way that there is liability and that you can sue them is if they knew about it. And this is why they took me out in 2011, because our work proved, they used to say, yeah, we know these adventitious agents are in vaccine, but they don't hurt anybody and they don't get into people. Well, they're in 25 million Americans, according to every single study. They say they can't replicate. They can replicate the part that says 25 million Americans, almost exactly 4 to 6% from contaminated vaccines and a contaminated blood supply in every study that they did in the 2 years after our paper was published in Science. So here's all the bovine sera contaminants. We use cow bovine sera for literally growing these cell lines in the laboratory. So it's usually at the level of 5 to 10%. So every one of those big fermenters has cow blood. Oh, what do cows have? Ticks. Think of any chronic Lyme disease in your communities. It's infection by injection. It's not just the virus. So microcephaly was reported from this bovine-derived virus that is common in this serum that's never tested for. So what did they lie to us about in 17? Oh, Zika. Zika's causing microcephaly. No, they had a little DTP spraying program, a little vaccination program, and they weaponized some mosquitoes there in Brazil because just like Africa, the Brazilians and the poor, they can do anything they want to them. In their philanthropy. These are vaccines with bovine products. So, I make these slides available to everybody. It's everything your kids have gotten. You can see it on the back. So we started saying this in vaccine court over the last 4 or 5 years. And what did they do? Oh, they took it off the CDC excipient list. It was right there on the CDC website. And they said, go read the manufacturer's package insult. Now I used the one from 2012 because I know you haven't taken them out yet. But the chapter of vaccine cord in our book, Plague of Corruption, with everything I experienced between 2009 and 2011, and probably for decades before that, nothing compared to the horror, the injustice that is vaccine cord. They've already injured these kids, and it's a nightmare what they put these families through. Just horrific. And we had the question the other night, why do they only say 1 in a million? Because it's all fraud. The adverse event reporting system, which is supposed to be mandatory, isn't even used. 1%. So there's 100-fold or 1,000-fold more than that, and it's so that your doctors are supposed to report these, and of course they don't. The minute you have a vaccine injury, you're gone. He kicks you out of the practice. Which is why you want to go to your chiropractor's, right, friend?
No mask.
No mask, no vaccine. No mask, no vaccine. So here's all the flu vaccines for more than 70 years. And again, watch David Martin from his interview with Brian Rose, freedomplatform.tv. It just will blow your mind because he talks about the corruption for 70 years in the flu vaccines. And it's going to be worse for SARS, the corona, because, think about that. If you've ever had the flu or you've ever had a vaccine, then you should have all the protection you're going to get of dying from it. None of them protect you from getting infected. Don't get confused. They want you to think. None of these they're directly in the COVID vaccines. They're injecting the blueprint of an infectious, contagious virus for your own cells to make into a virus in every cell of the body, even places where SARS-CoV-2 can't go. So they're going to do it every year because there are hundreds of clades of this kind of virus. So just like they perpetrated this fraud, my twin sister Julie, she's like, oh, it's pumpkin season, out comes the pumpkins, out comes the free flu shot. It's not free, folks. It's destroyed our country for more than 50 years, at least 70 years. They've known it. So all the pathogens in eggs. So there's a very big difference between pathogen-free and specific pathogen-free. So they change the labels. And they only take a few of them out. And they don't test for everything, as I just said. I got that slide flipped out of it. So here's independent research in Italy in 2017. These are some of the toxins and what Antoinette Agati and her husband, Dr. Montagnari, did in this paper was they used electron micrographs, and then they took them and they determined what other elements were in there by other technologies like gas chromatography, mass spec. And so what they show you is a drop of what's in Gardasil. And these right here are aggregates of red blood cells. From what animal? What are they injecting? This Gardasil shot, this is a glob of aluminum. What are they injecting in our girls and boys? They're killing them at puberty, when everything is on fire anywhere, the neuroinflammation. And this is probably, as my friend Dr. Suzanne Humphreys said, the most dangerous vaccine there is Gardasil. But they're pumping that on the TV too. You see it every night. Just turn off the TV. And of course, their careers were ruined as well. I'm not allowed to use that in vaccine court anymore. So, at any rate, the people who really know that if you won't fight for the right to breathe air properly, the sky's the limit. Sorry about that. And perpetual enslavement. And this is the second part of the movie starring David Martin, Plandemic Indoctrination. So the white coat is killing you, folks. You can see Freedom Platform TV /Martin, London Real TV. Brian Rose talked to Mickey Willis the day after that film came out. And that interview, it was amazing what he said because I didn't know half of it. These two guys, that's where there's a God because, I am rough around the edges, but these guys verified it to the 10th degree and they just blow it away and you can't touch, the guy in the bow tie or Mickey Willis. Well, Mickey Willis is easy on the eyes. It doesn't take I can sit and watch him talk all day. Sorry, honey, David's watching on Facebook Live. So these are our 3 books so far, and I just like to use the quote from Eleanor Roosevelt: great minds discuss ideas, mediocre minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people. So these small-minded people have never said anything about my work, not one. Discredited is not disproven. You know, you can discredit me all you want, but I'll show you the data just as we have in all 3 books, and they never said one word about the data. So when the fact checkers came, called, at 8:30 at night, the night the first pandemic movie came out, I'm cooking dinner. We're starving. We haven't eaten all day. And she calls me on the phone. And I said, well, I'm cooking dinner. I'm literally stirring the pan. We live in a 1-room studio. And I said, I'll set the phone down and I'll call you back. She said, nope, you don't have the data. Fact checked. And I'm like, okay. And then about an hour later, I get the Washington Post and Science, the journal. So one of the guys that destroyed my career, Martin Enserink, with his yellow journalism, hunted me down and published falsehoods against me, writes me a letter saying, hey, Judy, I hope this finds you well. And then you want to comment about pandemic? And I sent him that book and the slideshow from The Truth About Cancer that I gave on October 13th of 2019. And that slideshow showed every word of pandemic is true, that it was a plague of corruption to cover up the XMRVs, and COVID-19 is an attempt to kill those of us, that 25 million American you've already debilitated, that 50% of the kids with asthma. A kid with asthma can't wear a mask. Not even for 5 seconds, it'll destroy their brain. So, at any rate, thank you very much for your attention. And he said, oh, she didn't even say hi. She just answered me. And the Washington Post, I did the same thing. And I think she was probably 20-something. And she's like, it's 9 o'clock on the West Coast. And I get an email saying, oh, I don't have, and I sent her the book and the slideshow. Well, I don't have time to read anything. I'll just go back to the stuff they wrote in Wikipedia a few years ago. So we know we're being fed a lie, and thank you all for coming out to see the truth and hear the truth. And, hopefully we can all go out and speak the truth in love and be clearly seen without our masks on. And, maybe we wear our shield of glory, the little plastic one, but that's as far as we go, because that is safe and can be effective for this cause. Yes, sir.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
I read your book.
Which one?
Corruption, the most recent. Well, I actually don't know if the most recent. But I have my first question is, when it comes to COVID-19, like when you talk about retroviruses activating once they're injected into the bloodstream, is that what you're seeing possibly happen with COVID-19? That it has been a released retrovirus?
Yeah, this is what Dr. Andy Kaufman is saying. It's coming from within. So we're crippling our immune system, our memory, immune responses. We talk about Russell Blaylock. So absolutely, it's
Second question.
From within. Yes, sir.
How do I help you get your day in court?
Well, Larry Klayman's out there at freedomwatchusa.org, and if you saw my affidavit of the class action suit against Fauci for all of this, I'd love some help.
I want to help you, so afterwards I want to know what I can do.
A lot of people have tried.
Yes.
A lot of people have tried and really can't break through it. I mean, that's why at the end of Plague of Corruption, we've got Roger Stone. If they can do what they did to Trump, if they can do what they did to Roger Stone, I don't stand a chance when they come to my house in the middle of the night and take everything. Thank God, for Max Post and Frank Rossetti, because they're not as naive. I'm like, she'll get over it. She's just mad.
One of the things I'm seeing because of COVID-19, one of the bright sides, it seems like more of the public is becoming aware of the issues of vaccines more than ever before.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like that it is kind of like starting to crack the dam of the information of vaccines? Like, do you feel like something is going to change in the next 5 years because of this?
Yeah, I think something's going to change today, because not one person in this room is going to get a flu shot or everywhere. And the same with the 600 chiropractors chiropractors at Max Living in Orlando. The same at the International Association of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. So we're teaching the doctors, we're teaching everybody. So I think it's already tipped because you have Del Bigtree and Bobby Kennedy and Children's Health Defense. They caught them last fall, and we caught them. Plague of corruption, as you know, reads like prophecy. How do we know that was going to happen? Come on. You know, they can read our
It almost
emails.
seems like that's one of the reasons